Did you want to say something, owner? And if you have a name, I'll use your name. Guess maybe you can't hear, or we can't hear you. Jolynn or Laser, do you want to just give us a quick idea of what you do? And feel free to use the chat, and then we'll get started because it's now, a few minutes after. So, okay, Laser, I got it. Printer repair and supplies. Makes sense. Coffee shop business. Oh, got it. Without privacy, no problem. Okay. So let's jump in. As I said, I'm Kate Gardner, and I'm a SCORE volunteer. And how many of you are familiar with SCORE? Many of you familiar with SCORE? Have you taken other SCORE classes? Yep.
Yes.
Got it. And Mark got it. And is everything okay?
I feel like I have to for the presentation.
I'm going to use that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do both. Thank you. As you know, SCORE teaches business fundamental courses, and I'm a certified SCORE volunteer. I also am basically a business financial strategist and work with business owners on primarily on succession planning, but it's really all forms of strategic planning and de-risking situations involving oftentimes other colleagues and convening teams. It could be the attorney, it could be the CPA, and a personal development coach, whatever we need, because this is always a multidisciplinary process. Today, the title of this talk is, and hopefully interactive talk because there's so few of us, but is understanding the value of your business. And the presentation is primarily based on a survey that's done every 4 years. This survey was done in 2018, but the Mass Mutual Business Markets Group do this survey and then collect the inputs and provide information such as this presentation for us that gives us insights into what other business owners are thinking on this topic of understanding the value of your business. So Mass Mutual is an underwriter of SCORE nationally. And so that much of the content that you'll often see in SCORE talks it has been developed by Mass Mutual, which is amazing to have this kind of support. So with that, let's get started. And we have the Mass Mutual disclosure. And because of our audio, it may take me a minute to advance slides from time to time, but bear with me here. I know what I'm thinking. Okay. Gloria, can I ask one question? So we have the methodology, but on the screen, I think that everybody is seeing.
Plus this one. There is this symbol. They're called. If you move this one, that they have to say that.
Right. But why isn't it in my Zoom? Because I'm in the same meeting. I'm in the same meeting as they are.
Because what sharing is this and not this.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. So let me pull something up here. so that I can also see the slide. So why we're going to talk about this business owners survey is to frame what are all the components of understanding the value of your business. So let's first, I want you to understand, I want to share with you what the business owner survey was all about and how it was conducted and who participated. So it was conducted by a group called Hawk Partners, and Hawk Partners did this for Mass Mutual in 2018. There should be another survey out later this year, but over 900 business owners were surveyed, all with less than 500 employees, nearly all in business for 4+ years. And I'm going to make that smaller for me.
I made this for you.
Thank you. I still would really don't know why I can't see my own screen. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna look at the screen this way. Over 3/4 of these are have their multiple owners, 78%, and nearly all family members are in the business, and all these businesses have family members in the business, I should say. And most have annual revenues in excess of 500,000, and most have household income in excess of 100,000. So what does this mean to us? It sounds like many of your businesses or my business is smaller than that, but these are not huge businesses. And I think it is fairly representative of a pretty good cross-section of the small business owner market. So I'm still orienting myself here. So the survey basically came up with 7 pillars of what the respondents were asked about. And let's just read those. Keeping key employees loyal, knowing what the business is worth, protecting the business from death of the owner or a key employee, protecting the business from disability of the owner or key employee, business succession at death, disability or departure, and then transitioning ownership and or finding a buyer at retirement, being fair and equitable on the distribution of the estate. I'm going to pause one more time because, Gloria, is there any way, should I sit over there so that I'm not like looking up, or I guess I'd be still looking up over there? There's no way to have it. Okay. Hey, even, do you think it's possible to do the co-host? Since we don't have other attendees, we were getting ready to have both. And sorry for the delay in getting set up here. So I'm going to keep going, but possibly we can, yeah. Hey, Janet. We'll come back to these pillars a couple more times. So a majority of business owners say that they prefer to keep their business and personal financial well-being separate and prioritize their personal financial planning over their business planning. But if your business is your largest asset, then the provider of income for you and your family, then it seems like these two should be viewed with equal importance. And in an effort for us to understand how owners think and feel about protecting their businesses, the study examines these 7 core pillars and how top of mind each one of these are. And we'll get into the data on some of this. So the results show, in general, that business owners, let's see. So now I should advance it, right? On mine, right? Thank you, Gloria, for doing that. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised I can't see both things, but that's okay. So let's keep going. Uh-oh. Well, that's a, yeah. So, or I can even, is in front of this camera?
Yeah, basically, the computer, this computer
Go here? Got it. This is so funny. So I guess the camera is here still, right?
Yeah. Now you have to share, you want to share your computer.
Okay. All right.
I admit that.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
here over here, I think I need. Because this is not going to advance, right?
But now your computer will share. Show them like the video. Special.
Mhm.
And
Sure. And we can't see, but we can, right, but we can't see each other. Well, okay. I think I'm gonna end up just standing. So should we move that?
No, I remove that, but they are watching this. Okay, but minimize this.
Okay.
And you're handling the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Gloria. I want to go back one. So we'll get going again and try this. Enter the admit. If I do that, then I won't be looking up at you. Okay. So basically, the survey respondents were asked to rate 4 of the 7 aspects of these pillars. And the questions they were asked to rank was how important each one of these are. Oops. Gloria, they're seeing this, right? They're seeing mine. Yes.
I can't see the pillars. I can't see anything, just the main page. It's not moving through.
Daisy, you are being so helpful. So she doesn't see, she can only see.
Most of us can't. If you look at the chat, we all seem to be having various issues.
Yeah, me too. Let's take 5 minutes and get this set up because.
You don't see this part?
Do you see core pillars at a glance?
No, half of us don't, they only see the presentation screen, and the other half of us have something that says Classroom Run has started screen sharing, but it's just black.
Yeah, I have just black. I can see you, but it's just black.
Okay. I'm probably the one who's confusing this.
No problem. Okay, you trying to- But clear classroom. Okay.
Now we can't hear you. I don't know if you were talking to us or your mouth was moving, but can't hear you.
Mute myself there now. Now you can hear me, right?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Okay, but I don't think you see anything yet, can you?
I just see the main PowerPoint presentation, but it's not moving through the deck. at
Yeah.
all.
That's what I was saying. It's not, I don't know why it's not.
Are you manually moving it yourself, or is someone manually moving it? Because it's not gonna move on its own. Maybe we need to click the second. You're seeing that
No,
very
for sure.
sec-
Well, and I'm still not seeing anything. It just says
It-
Classroom One has started screen sharing, and it's still black.
Yeah, I have nothing, says nothing.
And you have
It's
no-
just black.
Really
I
weird
just,
that
I just have black.
Do you want me to close this?
No, because the contact is here. Obviously, if we made this, we see the classroom. Now the sound is, that you have there, and the sound is working. I think the
Right.
sound is good. But when we share, it's probably that you are sharing from the computer and from.
But they're not seeing any share. Like, they're not, they should be, they're not seeing any share. So,
Let's see, resume the share.
oh, resume the share. That's,
I see it now, first page.
Okay, so keep going here. We are here.
but that's you, not me, right?
Yeah, but you can continue here with the arrow.
Can you put it in slideshow mode?
Sure.
Thank you.
See that?
That's fine. I can go from there. Okay. So basically, where we are trying to get to in terms of kicking this off is to just frame this business owner survey. And these were the core pillars, which I think you can see now. And on each of these, what people were asked were to rate 4 aspects of the 7 pillars, such as how important are they to your business? How often do you think of them? How capable they are in solving the issues, and who they turn to for help. So this chart provides an overview of how business owners rate each core pillar in terms of those specific aspects. And sorry if I'm looking weird. In order for me to see myself, I have to look up, but we'll all get used to it. So what they ranked, as you can see here, is keeping key employees loyal was viewed as most important, most top of mind, and most solvable. And then protecting the business from both death and disability of the owner or a key employee are also viewed as highly important. And then knowing what the business is worth is also very much top of mind. In addition, our survey results indicate that business owners leverage many different resources for support in addressing the core pillars. Oftentimes the resources either themselves or a business partner or a family member, meaning they may not always be turning to the most informed resource to help them. It's common for a professional outside of the business not to be the one go-to resource to address these core pillars. Next is me, I think. Yeah, all right. I think we're getting this. Thank you. The agreements, the business planning agreements the business owners have in place are a will, 74%, and estate plan, 60%, a written succession plan, 57%, formal business evaluation, 51%, a buy-sell agreement covering death, 46%, a buy-sell agreement covering disability, 40%. Those are, at least in the survey, what the business owners said they have in place. Obviously, we can see the gaps in this. So what are some of the common reasons or excuses the business owners don't have these plans in place? And it looks like it typically boils down to lack of time or perceived need and extra funds, just having the money to do it. It also appears that business owners lack the awareness and resources to help with business protection concerns. Now, when they do have plans in place, what are the common motivators, that the reasons that they would have these in place? And it's all about protecting the family first, then the business, it would seem, at least in the results of the 2018 survey. Some business owners also started off doing personal planning, and then that led to them thinking about the business planning that they needed to do. So the big unknown, the great unknown as we call it, is whether or not my business will sell. And knowing and evaluating all of the available exit options and finding a ready and willing buyer, one that's ready to accept your price in your time frame, is not an easy thing. In fact, as this chart shows you, only 80% of businesses that go on the market never sell. And even a smaller percentage sell for what the business owner was hoping for. So a business that is not ready to sell is definitely not ready for a transfer. I'll use the terms transfer and exit and succession plan interchangeably. So one of the key things that we see when we look at this information is that business owners are not focused on being a value accelerator. That's a business owner who's focused on the true drivers of what's driving value in their business. They're focused on drivers that will help. The focus on these kinds of drivers will help ensure that you can be ready for a transition or an exit when the time comes, which basically brings us to rule number 2, which is the second part of the great unknown. Will I exit the business someday? 10% say they don't ever plan to exit their business. And 66% say they don't know their exit options. That's a really important point. And because people are saying, so few are saying they'll ever exit, and 66% aren't aware of what their options are, then they aren't planning or preparing the business for what they don't know. So let me ask you, how many of you have personal financial plans? We can either chat or you can just, I don't think there are too many of you that you can't just raise your hands or.
In the process.
Oh, I got it, Aki. So you're in the process. of doing a personal financial plan. How about a business financial plan?
That's why I'm in this class.
Got it. Okay. And a business growth plan. I guess that to you probably might mean the same thing.
Yes.
Has your business been growing?
We're 21 years into it, and good years, bad years. It depends. I'm at that point where it is 21 years, and we're kind of in similar spot.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're sharing that, because that's actually, it's important to take stock, right? And assess, because it takes resources and time and to continue to operate a business. So you want to dig in, not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not suggesting that, but begin to dig in on what are the value drivers or what's missing to be able to achieve that growth.
Yep.
Oh, we have some more chats. And what are people saying? Ah. So that's Daisy, and we have key employee life insurance planning for succession in 7 to 9 years. Oh, Daniel, that's really helpful for me to know. James, when you say you have, I do, was that to the personal financial plan or to the business financial plan or business growth plan?
Yeah, that the personal financial plan, pretty well documented, pretty well set up. Business plan, not so much, which is why I'm doing this, attending this.
Okay. And we had already joined, and what is the business that you're in?
Facility services.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Is it roughly how big a business is that?
Fairly sizable, and we've been growing very fast. So it's time to put in place some of these things, because they'll have significant consequences if I pass away.
Got it. I think you'll, where I'm going to go at the end of this class, and has everybody registered for the class? Or I guess they have, because otherwise they wouldn't be able, you have a password and everything. The reason why some of my confusion, I usually am doing classes for SCORE, and we're here at Alianza in Thornton, the Economic Development Center, an alliance. And I don't always, I don't see everything the same way as when we do it this way. And it's not a problem. It's just, that's a little bit of some of my confusion, not yours. But
yeah, so Kate, I'll just be candid, because probably other owners are in a similar situation. If I was to become incapacitated or die, my business evaluation drops to a fraction, because there'll be a lot of people willing to pay nothing for my business to take it off my hands, or to take it off my spouse's hands. So that's really an important topic, because your business goes from X to Y really, really quickly.
Absolutely, if you don't have plans in place, right?
Right.
If you're the primary person, how many employees do you have, James?
A couple employees, but I'm not so worried about the employees. They're taken care of, but the spouse and the anyway, the succession plan is the problem, because it would probably be a sale.
Okay, but even we'll talk more about that. Where I was going with, at the end of the presentation, I can invite each and every one of you to a survey to be able to begin to develop a valuation for your business, and to identify kind of what are your value gaps, which can be quantified and actually help you, say your business is worth $1 million, but you have these value gaps of 300,000, and it's key employee one and a marketing one and a legal issue, whatever. There we have 18 core value drivers, and pardon me, 18 core value drivers, and we try to assess a value based on, how do we assess that? It's based on what other businesses in your industry, using your NAIC codes which are on your tax returns. Of the majority of you are pass-through entities. If you're LLCS, you're filling out an 1120S, when you file your taxes, and you'll see what your NAIC code is on there. And so you'll put that NAIC code in this survey, and it'll generate some information. It'll give us the ability to compare how you're doing with other businesses in your industry, and give you an idea of your valuation. So let's go on and let's see. Okay, so circling back to these core pillars, rather than approach the planning from a solutions first perspective, meaning we need to jump to life insurance, or we need to jump to a sale of a business. Instead, as I was just saying, we want to think about how the pillars resonate with what's most important to you, and then consider these concerns in the terms of helping protect your family, your business, your vision, your future, whatever's most important to you. And then we work with advisors, or you'll work with your advisors to address the various planning needs that fall under each area. And that's why this is a little bit of a tough process sometimes, because it's a multidisciplinary process. But you will want a team. One message to take away from today's course is you'll want a team of people who do this kind of work, not just, I always ask my CPA, or I always ask my friend, the attorney. You will want an experienced team, because you don't want to be the one who's educating the team. Okay, so knowing, again, staying on knowing the value of your business becomes really important. And in 2018, it was number 2 on the list, and it's become even more important at number 2, because in 2015, it was number 4 on the list. So it's very much top of mind, with 70% saying they frequently or often think about their business value. And let me make one other comment. A lot of this material, there's a lot of data in this particular presentation, so I'm often going to refer to my notes here, but don't feel like you can't raise your hand or ask a question, just like James just did, if you want me to go deeper in a particular area. Okay, so the reasons that the owners in the survey want to know the value tends to focus more on their business key performance indicators, rather than on strategies to protect their business and the wealth it generates, just like James just mentioned. That reality, once that reality sets in, you realize how vulnerable you are. So most of the business owners in the survey stated they would only need to know its value when they're ready to sell. So as I said, afterward, I'll send you this link to start keeping track of the value of your business, because it's a really good idea to do this over time, particularly if you have any business partners, or there are any changes in the market that you see downward or up. It's generally good practice to do this kind of planning every 3 years. So So knowing your true business value, the study indicates that business owners may not know what their business is actually worth. And nearly 2/3 of them go to an informal resource in the last few years. Primarily, their CPAs are the go-to resource, which makes sense. I think we all depend upon our CPAs. I'm not diminishing their role, but they may not have the right valuation capabilities to do that. But more troubling is that 1 in 4 businesses said that they did it themselves. And when the business owners value the business themselves, they can overvalue or undervalue it by a significant amount. You know, a proper business valuation is not a rule of thumb or a handshake. It's a thoughtfully crafted, credentialed document that someone who's has the proper credentials to be able to do it. And some of the credentials that you would be able to respect would be a certified valuation analyst, a CVA, an accredited valuation analysis, an AVA, an accredited senior appraiser, an ASA, or an accredited in business valuation, ABV. And you wouldn't want to leave your succession plan or your retirement planning or your intention to get into a business up to too many unknowns. I mean, business is always a risk, and there's not always a hard and answer to many of these questions, but particularly around valuation of a business, when it's the appropriate time to value a business, you want to make sure you're working with credentialed people, because it can really derail your planning. I was going to say something, which is you're going to get, have they already gotten a copy of the presentation? No, right? Yes. Yeah, you're going to get a copy of this presentation. So you'll have all of those, that alphabet soup that I just mentioned in your hands shortly. So let's, as you can see on this slide, over half of business owners say they've had their business valued, but 1 in 4 have valued it themselves. So, and actually, I should have advanced this slide. We just covered that, but there you have the actual statistics. So, when business owners value their business themselves, oftentimes they miss a really very important component of their business's value. I run into this all the time as I work with business owners. They are often undervaluing the intangible assets, and the 4 capitals, as they're called, the human capital, the customer capital, the structural capital, and the social capital, need to be considered. There's a, to call it small, it's been in business 27 years. They're fairly small compared to some of their competitors. It's a sign manufacturing company near here. And though they're small, they're mighty, because they also have they have people in the business who can do fabrication, and they also have licenses in their business, specifically a paint booth that highly increases the value of their business. And we're going through a process right now where, if on paper we just valued their business just using their financial statements, it would not be nearly as interesting. It would not be nearly as interesting if we didn't include these special assets or these intangible assets. So obviously, a lot of the reason it's difficult to value your own business is it can be an emotional question. Your perception can be either under, as it is in that sign company's case, or overvaluing it because you're so close to it. But the intangible assets can be as much of 80% of the value, and I think that's very important. Going to go on. So with a business valuation, there's what you want for the valuation to come in at, and then there's what you need the valuation to come in at. And what we've seen in the business owner survey was there's oftentimes a disconnect between these things. So let's look into what that disconnect is about. The top reasons business owners want their business valued, usually centered around measuring the business's health and preparing it for sale. But there are specific milestones that can be considered in a business's life when it is critical to understand the business's value. And the milestones are, in the case where there's more than one shareholder, and most businesses of significant size usually have more than one shareholder, and I call that revenues of $1 million or more. And usually these owners need to protect their co-owner or owners, spelling out what each shareholder would get upon the exit of the business, whether it's retirement or disability or death. So that's one case that one of the milestones. For people, usually around the ages of 50 to 60, they start thinking about that retirement's ahead. And when these owners start to see their friends retire, the concept of retirement stops being such a nebulous word and starts becoming real. And retirement planning becomes of great importance. So how large is your nest egg? And obviously, if you're a business owner, that depends upon the value, knowing the value of your business. The business itself is oftentimes most business owners' most important asset. And then the next milestone, when it's important in the life of the business, when it's critical to understand the value of your business, is for business owners who are ready to leave their business, usually ages 60 to 70. And even though they may have never thought they were ever going to retire, they start to think, well, maybe they have other goals they want to achieve, or maybe they don't feel they can be as productive as they used to be, or maybe they feel the need to actually give the next generation more autonomy than they're giving now. So evaluation prepared by a neutral and independent expert is key to making that deal work. And then finally, as for these milestones that we usually see when it's important to have evaluation is when someone's doing some estate planning. And for businesses that would sell, any asset that would sell, there would be a transfer tax that needs to be considered. And if you don't have a good understanding for the valuation of your business, the IRS will come up with one for you. And this can be a significant surprise for people because it can require an immediate liquidity need. And then there's the family side of things, which are wanting to distribute your assets or do some estate planning. And equalize how you plan to share your assets with your heirs. And that oftentimes drives the need to value the business. So the critical milestones here appear to be underestimated, though, and underrepresented. For example, to fund retirement, only 13% felt that they needed a valuation, or were connecting the dots that in order to fund retirement, there would need to be you need to get from equity to liquidity. And when we again know that only 10% had considered evaluation to set the value of the business for the purposes of establishing a buy-sell agreement, that again could leave both families or all families involved less than happy about that outcome. And only 9% considered evaluation for the purposes of creating an equitable distribution for their heirs. There are key stages of value maturity in a business. And each of these is critical in developing the value growth process of your business. And it's always good to be able to have a plan for how you're going to harvest your equity at various stages. But let's take one at a time. So first, the first step is to identify the value, understanding where the business benchmarks are and the range of value sets. This helps set up a baseline for all planning for the business and obviously for your personal life too. So owners in general probably need to focus more on maximizing the value and how they're going to unlock that value at some point in the future. There's the need to protect the value by migrating personal, financial, and business risks. And what that typically means is from legal risks or death or disability of a owner or key employee. And so we see a lot of, in this, particularly in this study, a lot of business owners were not necessarily protecting themselves from those risks. Then to build the business and build value really takes a long-term, it requires the owner to take a long-term view of their business and prioritize the strategic actions that they need to take, whether it's to impact positively cash flow or to say improvements to the multiple. I think given the size of most of your businesses, I think it's more really understanding what are the specifics that could be improved for productivity, for cost reduction, for tax minimization, things like that. And in a way that you're taking a long-term view. I'm thinking about another business that I work with nearby here. They have been to great lengths minimizing their taxes and paying showing very little profit in their business. However, now they're in a situation where they would like to sell the business. One of the family members actually has been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at only 53 years old. And there's the concern of having assets in one of the owner's names should his wife need Medicaid support in the future. There's that concern. There's the concern that he's not really been able to build this business to any great value. It's been pretty consistent, between about 750,000 and $1 million in revenue each year. So he's thinking about joining with some other businesses, merging with them, some larger, some complementary, but his numbers are so skewed because he's just been saving money on taxes that it makes that kind of a partnership or purchase very difficult. We're facing the need to extend the amount of time that it's going to take him to be able to probably get into play with any of his opportunities, which is why it's really important to keep your eye on the cycle of business and explore ways, know the ways that you can extract the value that eventually gets trapped in our businesses. So, let's see. I think, let me just. It's like my little pages are, yeah. I think, okay. The, for buy-sell agreements, which I don't want to spend too much time on this because I didn't necessarily hear that many of you actually have partners in your business, but in the case of a buy-sell agreement, probably the most important thing, should you have a partner in the future, is to make sure that they're properly executed and that they're properly funded. No point in having a buy-sell agreement if the business is operating at a level where you're counting on the business to properly fund the buy-sell agreement, or you're not. Like, for example, that business I was just talking about, they are both partners in the business, and they have about 250,000 of life insurance on each of the partners, but the business is worth at least $1 million. And so obviously, if something happened to the other person, there would be a significant gap. And I don't think that their buy-sell agreement, actually, I think it's an informal buy-sell agreement, which becomes a big problem for valuation when you're actually having to report to the IRS on how your business was liquidated or disposed of if it happens at an inopportune time. There are, I'm going to jump ahead here, and I'm going to come back to that. Okay, I'm going to come back to those other two slides in a minute. But the red flags of buy-sell agreements are that either they've been established incorrectly based on a business entity type, they don't have the right number of owners, say a new owner joined later on, but it wasn't updated. It doesn't account for all of the 5 Ds: death and disability and divorce, departure and disqualification. And there's an inconsistent definition of what disabled is actually considered to be. So the disabled topic is a very important one, because oftentimes what I see most often owners do is leave it up to themselves to determine what the definition of disabled is. And this, this can set up people not necessarily being fair with each other, or not seeing eye to eye. So oftentimes that's a really good reason to have a third party, whether it be a legal agreement where that definition is clearly spelled out, or an insurance company that has disability, either life insurance or disability on the owners. They will be able to provide that definition of what disabled is. And then no proper valuation is in place on the business, or they've just agreed on a particular number, but then haven't revisited it. And then as we talked about, the agreement isn't funded, or the agreement simply isn't even signed. This is not one of my clients, but one of the attorneys, as I said, doing this kind of work takes a team of people. And an attorney I work with quite often, he just has finished. He doesn't have to go to court, which is good. So therefore he can be more available to my clients and their needs. But he was representing the Bolin sisters, who were challenging the Pat Bolin trustees in the recent lawsuit. And even though we're talking about the Broncos and such a huge asset as the Broncos, though Pat did some estate planning, setting up some trustees and some trustee ways of how he wanted the trustees to help supervise his assets, including the Broncos. They didn't actually have a succession plan. So whether we're talking about buy-sell agreements or whether we're talking about succession plans, this is something that ends up being challenged by stakeholders, right? And the stakeholders could be other owners, they could be family members, they can be customers or creditors, and it can be a real mess. Anyway, in the case of the Bolins, it's going to be settled because they came to the realization there is no real succession plan in this particular case. So some of these family members should not, they have no obligation to accept what the interpretation of what that succession plan should be, given that it wasn't spelled out by Pat Bolin himself, who is the grantor of the trust. Do you have any questions or comments, or? And sorry that it's probably me who's not as practiced doing this particular format. Okay, Jamie's saying he's about to acquire a business, and I'm interested in talking about that too. We are, as far as time, is everybody okay on time, or do we need? This was due to go from 2 to 4, so we should have enough time, but is anybody out of time but does need to hear more about this? Or, okay, good to continue. Thank you.
So Kate, quick question. So I understand succession planning, which definitely affects a single owner business. Do I understand correctly, the buy-sell thing is primarily around multiple owners? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, yes. Okay. And there are different kinds of buy-sells for different entity types, like an entity buy-sell or a cross-entity purchase buy-sell. And oftentimes, yeah, I was just going to say they can be funded in different ways, or partially funded with disability, or partially funded with life insurance, or partially funded privately, but it needs to be clarified in a buy-sell agreement. Any comment on that? The other part of the comment that somebody just made, that they're thinking about buying a business, there's this course is not on buying businesses, but there's a lot to say about that, because there's different ways to do it. And wouldn't it be great if who's ever selling the business, say it's $1 million business, if they're going to sell their business, granted there may be some capital gains protection. So, but just in the interest of simple math, somebody who would sell a business would probably owe $200,000 to $250,000 in taxes when they sell that business. Well, wouldn't it be great if there were ways they could sell the business without such a huge tax bill, possibly even without any tax bill? And then for people who are buying businesses, wouldn't it be great if there were ways, on that $1 million business, in order for somebody to buy that business, given how at least 90% of the people, if not more, think they have to go and buy a business, would be to they have to either earn $1.5 million to buy the business, or they have to go to a bank and borrow that money, and say they might be able to borrow, say, $400,000. I'm using real numbers from business owners that I'm working with. The new buyer might be able to borrow 400, and then the owner's going to carry a note of 600,000. And if the new buyer defaults in any way or isn't able to perform in the business, then the only resource that the owner is going to have, the seller is going to have, is that they're going to have to chase that person personally to try to collect that 600,000. Well, wouldn't it be great if there were strategies where the buyer didn't have to borrow that money? And that kind of a strategy actually takes time, trust, and profitability, meaning it takes time. The answer to that question that I'm posing, there is such a solution. It's called a stock redemption plan, but it ideally takes time for it to happen over time because of IRS regulations. They don't allow a redemption to happen. They don't allow an owner to redeem more than 20%, actually 19% of the stock in a year. And then trust, if the business hasn't actually transferred, but is in the process of transferring, without the owner paying all this tax and without the buyer going and borrowing a lot of money, then it takes trust between the parties, and it takes profitability in the business, because it's the business that will essentially buy out the owner.
Is it a good idea to include the succession plan and all of this information in the financial part of your business plan, or is it necessary to have this in their business plan?
I think it's a really good idea to have a succession plan or a succession outline at succession options, because it will change over time what your succession plan options are. But it's a very different kind of activity than running your business day to day, right? Keeping an eye on value and keeping an eye on management development. That's one of the toughest things that people encounter, is the management development piece. Because for most business owners, small business owners, Nobody runs their business like they do. They run it best. So it's difficult for them to sometimes deal with that emotional issue of being able to have that long-term view of building value in the business versus solving the day in and day out problems. So why I'm saying that, Daisy, in that way, it may sound like I'm not actually directly answering your question, but I am, in that an owner might say, I'm thinking of a construction company owner that I work with right now. It's a $30 million business, and they would like it to be a family. They would like their kids to take over the business, but they haven't developed their kids. There's a mom, there's a dad in this particular case. The mom's involved in the family, not involved in the business, but the kids are basically almost afraid to talk to the dad, even though they've been working in the business since they're 13 and they're 30 now, roughly. There's 2 boys who work in this business. And the dad is such a, he runs this business so well and has such high standards, as the wife will say, I think we should sell it because I don't think anybody's ever going to live up to her husband's standards. But this is short-sighted. And Daisy, going back around to the answer for this particular business, we are going to try to do the management development of these kids, but I can't guarantee that it's going to work, right? So we might have to have a couple contingency plans. Might have to be key employees who also become involved with taking over the business, and maybe using that cool stock redemption plan that I just discussed. And maybe it's a combination of family and key employees, or maybe it's just a third-party sale. So all of these data has to be collected on the feasibility of any of these things. And it's very different, right, than running your business from day to day. So we'll move on now, unless anybody has any other questions. No, all right, you do? One more? Okay. Sole proprietor, 1.72, 14 to 18 employee, like to retire, 6 to 8 years. So great. Great. Got it, Jamie. And just on that little sign manufacturing company that I was talking about, they also own their building. And interestingly enough, in their particular case, we'll do 2 stock redemption plans, one for the building and its owners, and the owners are the brothers and the wives, and then for the business, and the owners are the brothers. And the reason you would do 2 in that particular case would be because typically property will take a longer buyout in that particular stock redemption plan. And so what I'm illustrating here is, I'm just giving you one example of a strategy, but it all takes looking at the specifics of the fact pattern. Okay. Obviously, for a lot of people, particularly a lot of baby boomers like me, business value and retirement planning go hand in hand. And transitioning ownership when the business owner is ready to retire is ranked last in our survey, getting back to the survey, in terms of importance and priority. I mean, as I said, only 10% of the people said they were ever going to retire, and most said they didn't have any plan at all. So it's not surprising when you consider that nearly half the owners surveyed don't think about retirement or can't imagine ever retiring. However, more importantly, that when the business owners will retire, is how the business owners will fund that retirement when that time comes. It always comes back to, with business planning, the funding, right? So in the survey, more than 56% of the business owners are extremely or very confident regarding their estimates on their sources for income in retirement. And they claim to have a diverse picture of where the money will come from. However, the reality of that perception paints a different picture, because as you can see in the data here, 3 out of 4 business owners have less than 500,000 saved in their retirement accounts. That means these business owners are both underestimating their financial reliance on their business post-retirement and perhaps the liquidity of the business. So many may be forced to actually sell the business in order to get that liquidity. And so this lack of financial independence between the business and their personal lives may not be a problem today because of maybe they're lifestyle owners, as opposed to, as I'm going to try to encourage you guys to be, value accelerators, right? But they're not actually able to truly exit the business because of their dependence on the business for income, is my point. Okay. So just jumping back to valuation methods for a moment before we go on kind of down the home stretch here. You might ask, what's the most important valuation method? Well, I wouldn't say there is a most important valuation method. There are various approaches to valuation, and valuations can either be done. There are primarily 3 categories of valuation: asset, market, and then asset, market, and basically relative importance to a particular market. And depending upon what you're trying to do, then you would use the right valuation method. Usually we use a combination of these methods, but it's never just about the business itself. It's so often, when we get pretty far down the road, it becomes the income replacement value. And so it becomes pretty significant that 72% of business owners don't think they'll exit. Their exit will impact their lifestyles. And I think they usually greatly underestimate this. And oftentimes, particularly for small businesses, and I think particularly for small businesses in our area, a lot of people are very, it's great. They're debt adverse, and they believe in accumulating assets, but when it comes to needing an income stream after they separate from their businesses, then facing the need to liquidate assets isn't always as easy or as convenient as they casually brushed it off to be. I've been in several conversations where husbands and wives who have significant net worth, but all of it pretty much is in asset-based net worth. And you know, you just, I'm in these personal financial discussions, and it's it's pretty fast that there's usually disagreement about what should be liquidated, should anything happen. So it becomes pretty important to understand the valuation as a basis for building an important income strategy, because ultimately it's the income replacement value of the business that always becomes a part of an important determinant of what succession plan somebody would choose.
Hey, can I ask a question about valuation, or do you want to finish this chart first?
No, that's fine.
So I've had a number of different valuations done, ostensibly for some of the reasons that you mentioned. And what I find totally surprising to me, understanding that a small business is not a commodity, it's not a house, it's not a fungible asset like, oil or whatever. And so there is customization. The valuations I've seen are all over the map. And, for a small business, a lot of valuations will use seller discretionary earnings, and they'll go through a very complex assessment of all those different numbers. And then they'll apply a multiplier, and everybody uses a different multiplier. It might as well have been a random number generator from my experience so far. So how does one get to a good valuation? Because it seems like if you do multiple valuations, you're going to get multiple and very, very disparate valuations of your business, unless perhaps you have had the same revenue stream for 5, 6, 10 years.
But as you probably have come to appreciate, just book value, assets minus liabilities, that's not going to capture those intangible assets we talked about earlier, right?
Right.
And market value, there's so many components. It's a snapshot in time, right? And then you get into the capitalization of earnings or the discounted cash flow valuations, which do take into account the track record, which is obviously very important. And then obviously that feeds back into the market value. So where I'm going with this is it's a combination of everything, and it depends upon who you're trying to catch. Are you trying to go for a third-party sale? Or are you trying to sell your business, say, to internal people, an internal transfer for a fair amount? Everybody's wanting each other's success, but it has to be fair because you put a lot of equity, you may have a fair amount of basis. But it should be all over the map, I guess, James, is what I'm actually implying, because these are different valuation assessments. So a lot of small businesses, unfortunately, will actually, a lot of buyers, as you know, want an asset sale. Like the big commercial lighting company that might be interested in buying this little sign manufacturing company. They'd rather just buy the assets and give the owners perhaps a job to continue the business, as opposed to giving them any value for their stock. And at the moment, the problem that that manufacturing company has was that they have not been paying attention to this longer term view of value. And so it's going to be hard for them to justify a greater value because they look on paper like they're living off of loans, even though that's not necessarily completely true. That's not the total value of their business. So it depends on what you're trying to do. And this is a packaging exercise. Buyers they don't want surprises. They want to de-risk a situation. And sellers want to maximize equity and value. So understanding those value drivers and understanding the reasons for the valuations and using them in a way that it's useful to you, because it's a courtship. Even if it's an internal transfer, so getting familiar with the whole process, I guess, is what this class is all about, right?
Kate, I have a quick question on that. So the scenario you mentioned where there's sort of a mutually defined goal of an internal transfer where both parties are sort of invested in that, does that generally tend to lead towards one type of valuation over others, or does it remain just as mixed?
It's just as mixed. If all performance factors are addressed, then it's the same kind of then it just depends. I'd say is the easiest way to answer it. But what the market conditions are, what I'll say the age of the owners, is this a platform play? Does this allow a company a bigger market expansion by acquiring this particular company? Hopefully I'm speaking all your same language.
It's language I'm quickly becoming familiar with.
But this is actually, really, this discussion is probably the most important thing. Let me see. I'm going to make the income replacement discussion. Claire, I'm going to discuss the exit of the current owner manager. Is that something that they exit with no ties? Is that something where they become a silent partner? I can quickly get through kind of the rest of these topics, but it's all part of that value play, even the owner's exit strategy. And I can jump to that one. Then I'm going to jump back to the business succession. I'd say the hardest part of this, of a transfer process, usually, particularly for successful businesses, are the emotional factors. That these technical factors, if you have the right team, we can sort those out. The part that's hard for me to sort out, and my team, is that owner who's 67 who hasn't trained his sons, who tells me he's probably good for another 10 to 15 years of managing his business. But 10 to 15 years ago, he said he was probably good for another 10 to 15 years, and that's always sliding. So, down at the bottom of this triangle, that owner who stays involved indefinitely, that's usually the biggest nightmare. I can think of another commercial electrical company where the mom who started the company, is now about 75. Her son's been running the company for the last 15 years, but she's still very actively involved. And we were even pretty far along in looking at purchasing a small company or doing the stock redemption plan. And now everything's just kind of gone dark. And I think it's because mom, who's the owner, wasn't totally on board. It wasn't her idea. And it just causes all kinds of, it's interesting. It causes family issues because this is a family-owned business. Back to that road construction company, over the last 5 years, they've lost 5 key employees. And the reason that they're losing these people, and I'll permission to speak candidly, when the last guy left, he said, I just don't have, I don't know what the vision for the future of the company is. If the owner is just going to give it to his sons, I wish he'd tell me already so I know whose ass to kiss. And what it highlights is this is somebody's career. This is a person who's been a very loyal, high-performing employee for the last 13 years. But this person feels a great deal of uncertainty about their own professional and therefore personal financial future if this owner doesn't clarify what the future is. And this owner, anybody can see this owner's 60-ish years old. And so just, that lack of clarity causes employee retention problems. It causes productivity problems. It causes other communication problems. And it actually affects in a big, big way the value of the business. So back to, is it important to have a succession plan and have it clarified? You can always evolve it if there's a good reason to evolve it. But it's important to clarify it. And back to this slide, even if somebody who acts as a silent partner, the 34% of owners who said they were going to act as a silent partner, oftentimes what that is code for they still need to take some income from the company for their own personal income stream. So it has to be clarified what that, maybe it's or the next one, a consulting fee. What are they going to actually do for the company? What value are they going to create for the company? And make sure that that's, to say measurable, it's this is not, these are people, and it's small business, and it's oftentimes family business. So I'm not suggesting everybody needs the financial planning or insurance police breathing down their necks. It's just good business. And once they understand how much it affects the value of their business, usually people get on board. And in some industries, there is a need for surety bonds. And if, as an owner gets older, up to that point, the owner might have had a personal indemnification from the insurance company, like the Hartford, who writes some of these bonds. And they're saying, hey, if you don't have a succession plan, you're going to lose your personal indemnification. You're going to have to put up your own money, your own assets, for these road construction projects. And some of these bonds might be, and there might be a need for a $7 million bond, indemnity bond for, say, the city of Denver. Anyway, it's just good business sense, but the emotional issues are the hardest ones, really, for everybody. Even the emotional issues of, does it still really make sense for me to continue investing in this business if I'm not seeing actual growth? I have to face it. Either the environment for this growth has changed, or environment, for this company has changed, or the just the opportunity set. So not thinking about it as just a lifestyle, but also recognizing that all businesses have an end. You know, you're going to have, everybody exits their business at some time or another, either by plan or not planning. Okay, I want to make sure before we, let me see, do I want to talk about anything on that? I want to, can you see my screen? Are you, oh, you need to do that. Sorry. Oh, you're just babysitting me. Thank you. So these are the value drivers that I was referring to. And there are 9 market drivers and 9 operations drivers. And this might be, I have a couple surveys I can offer to you, but these might be a good place to start digging in on the values you want to use as levers to explore not just your valuation, because it will allow you to compare how you're doing compared to peers in your industry, but also it helps to clarify, well, what are the things I should be addressing in order to increase the value in my business. Just like in a car, when a car is not operating well, it's usually just a couple of issues. You know, it's not the whole car is broken. There are a couple of issues. And when you fix those issues, the business is a lot easier to run and a lot more marketable or valuable to you. Any thoughts on this?
Marketing, sales and marketing is something I would like to have more support with.
And so, right, wouldn't it be good, Daisy, if you could quantify, you know, what that might be worth in your particular business?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'm opening the, I'm looking at the chat again. Sure, and I can give you both I can give you my SCORE contact information. I think you got, if anybody's attended SCORE presentations before, you know, this isn't, I'm not here promoting my business. I'm here volunteering my skills to help you guys. So for example, this survey that I'm willing to share with you, I'm willing to share that with you for free. And it's a pretty valuable little piece of software. The guy who developed it is out of MIT. And not that you can't have my contact information. I'm not, but I'm just making a disclaimer that I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm really, I think it is though hard to find people who pull all these skills into one advisory place or team. Like I work in a team of people, great people, because you know, I need the CPA and the CPA needs me, and I need the attorney and vice versa, and I need the valuation people, and I need the personal development and the business coaches and the speakers to inspire or catalyze owners who need to make changes. Can I see those questions again? Thank you. I guess, should I be able to see it, Gloria? I guess not. We'll get it together next time, right?
Yeah, so basically here
Okay.
it has,
Okay, did you write it down or no?
no,
We were recording it, yeah. office number at Karen. What is at Karen, Daniel? At Jamie, office number at Karen, your client base and oh, you want to exchange information together, right? That's great. I think yeah, I'm being courted now. Okay, Karen, I see your message too. Yeah, it would be, it's really important to, let me say something, even though I've been harping on the need to do evaluation, I wouldn't say you start with paying for a valuation, a professional evaluation. You get ready for that. And that's, what somebody like me and a team of people would help you with. And I can give anybody advice on whether or not you have the right people in place to be able to do this. If you want that opinion, I can also help you with putting that together. Because when I teach this course, even though it's a little slow, or it's a little thick, right? It's what everybody ends up at the end of a class like this asking or admitting their biggest issue is, where do I start and who do I work with? Those are usually the biggest questions. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Most definitely.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, James? And it sounds like you've been through it before.
So I have a question. This is Karen. If
Yeah.
someone has already approached me to buy my business, or at least to begin talking about it, and they want an NDA, I haven't done anything because I don't even know who I can talk to before I even, because I don't know enough. I'm just a business of one. I'm 69. I've had a business for 35 years, but I know that it's not me so much that they want to buy, but it's the opportunity that my license creates for them.
Yeah.
And so I haven't done anything about anything yet. And so this was my first introduction to try to figure out, okay, well, what can I even do before I talk with somebody? Do I even need to do an NDA to start to even have a conversation?
I would say we should probably talk a little bit about this, because I've seen this before with physical therapists. Physical therapy licenses years ago were broader than they are today. There's kind of multiple licenses. So a lot of people who started to do that business years ago, their license, it could be worth essentially 5 licenses. And so getting smart about that, right? Getting smart about what's the regulatory environment now helps to give you the product differentiation, the barriers to entry, like, even though I think, Karen, you're saying your mental health, right, is the type of business. It's kind of like that little example that I keep referring to, the sign manufacturing company, where they have their paint booth, and they have the ability to fabricate. They're not just making channel letter signs. And Denver is not really giving out any more of those licenses. Or Denver has a super high particle requirement for the paint booth, but Commerce City has a lower one. Frederick has a lower. So you see how it's different, and it's really good to participate in events like this. And Allianz is a great place to try to come together, to learn from each other and think new thoughts about I guess I got to think about it this or that way.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking. It's like I knew, I mean, like I had no idea about even the tax ramifications if I sold my business and all how that would all happen. And so
Is your
at this
business
point,
profitable?
slightly. I mean, it's a closely held, I'm at the end part of my career, so I limit how much I practice. And because I have another business that I do on the side, which is coaching in addition to my mental health practice, but it's somebody who's wanting to enter the market. They're business people, not therapists. So they want, they have a MSO that wants to buy my license, I see, my practice, or at least a part of it, so that they can come and operate in Colorado with something different. So
Do you definitely know why they want to do this? This is another question I ask, and you'd be surprised how often the buyer isn't really clear about why they want to buy a business.
I think they want to clone what they're doing in another state in Colorado, and they see me as a way to enter in a state that they have nothing to, know nothing yet, because they're a business versus
Yeah.
like a medical practice. We have all these laws with things that people can do, and how you can be together if you're a business person and you're a medical person. Who can be in charge. And I know enough to make me dangerous, not enough to really know the laws. So
Well, basically, it sounds to me like what you have to do is structure a business, or at least think about, if you were at the beginning of your career, how would you approach this?
mhm.
And oftentimes, oftentimes small guys are kind of a little bit between a rock and a hard place. Like, you're not quite big enough to command much leverage, and yet so you have to really know what you have. And it sounds like you know what you have,
Mhm.
but really work through, well, if I was going to do this, how would I do it? And essentially think through a fair way and an ethical way.
Mhm.
Like, it sounds like you also would be concerned about, are they going to actually be ethical to the kinds of clients you serve today?
Exactly.
Or is it a
that was
business? Yeah,
right.
I get it.
It is a big concern for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Feel free. Oh, I should. Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Oh, chat. Yeah. Perfect. And this one, I know it sounds funny, doesn't it? But I'm not.
Kate, are you able to, or would you post your contact info in the chat session?
Yep, I can do that. I'm going to put my SCORE email in here. Yeah, SCORE volunteer. That's right.
And are you, is it all right if we approach you separately and just ask the question of what do you think we need to do? Because each individual is probably going to have a unique situation.
Yes, yes, I think it is. And, except for COVID, usually the other thing that comes up, it's actually a beautiful thing, I think. People are like, we need to have a series. We need to, have an ongoing conversation. And I will email you guys this survey. There's one, a small one, there's a little one, and then there's a bigger one. The bigger one will actually ask you for EBITDA. So you know, depending on how savvy you are with your taxes, you know, earnings before interest, depreciation, taxes, and what am I missing in there? That might stall you, but they're still on the smaller one we call Explore, the other one we call Discover. And there are other surveys even beyond that that can help us get more granular and to track value. So that's one piece of this puzzle, right? You know, there's the how do I do succession planning? Oh, I was gonna wrong one, sorry. There is I think it's after that. I think it was after, like the no, after. No, one more. Oh, I guess it was. It is before. It's what are the elements of a good succession plan? Because you know, this takes time, right, to do this. I thought, yeah, maybe one more before, two more before. Yeah. There. Thank you, Gloria. Just elements of a good succession plan. Okay. Okay, great. So I think one of the most important things I can help share with people are your options for succession plans. And then, you know, looking at the value drivers, putting you in touch with good either CPAs or really, I call them succession planning or strategic business planning CPAs. You know, they're not, yeah, they might have a tax business, but they're not doing that kind of work now. Now we're looking at what's, you know, we get all the financials, we get all the tax returns and stuff like that, but what's going into the compilation of those financials. And most CPAs aren't really paying enough attention to that. So trying to get granular on when we're trying to do growth planning. So I not only do exit planning, but we do growth planning. And so getting granular on those growth opportunities in a business, both from the financial, the cultural, and the leadership.
I'm just curious, is that your business,
That is my
actually
business,
do?
yeah.
Okay, because that's exactly where I'm at right now. That's what I'm looking
I have
for.
a business called Gardner Financial, and I am affiliated with Mass Mutual as well, which is an amazing company. I used to be an independent broker when I first got into it, but I've since become a Mass Mutual career agent, you know, in terms of full disclosure. But what is cool about Mass, you don't have to sell Mass. I can sell anybody's anything. And I do, you know, if Penn Mutual is a better product, we do that. If no insurance, we do that. If because I'm not real, it's not about, that's what I like in this particular presentation that Mass put together is telling people, don't start with the solution, look at the determinants of, and work backwards to the solution, because don't assume you want to sell your company. Don't assume you want to, it could be a partnership. It could be this like stock redemption plan. It could be you have to grow in order to actually unlock that equity.
Right.
So we're coming up on the top of the hour. I don't have someplace else I have to rush off to. I'm happy to answer individual questions for as long as you guys want to go. Or if you want to take it offline, you have my contact information. There are other presentations we could do, like simple steps to exit your business, core value roundtable, those value drivers that I was showing you. We can take the surveys and then discuss the outcomes of those things. We can do that individually, in groups. Yeah, that's actually something that I had talked last year about doing here. Yeah, I think it's really good. Mhm. Yeah, sure, I'll see the chat. I'll get better at this. Who are the key people you should have in the team for play? Yes, Daniel. But meaning the CPA, the lawyer, but not just any. So we should talk about that, because it sounds like you have a sizable, you have a target of, I think you said like 7 to 9 years. And I think you had some critical mass going, right? Who are the key people? Okay. I have clients as well. Oh, Jamie had to leave. Okay. You're welcome, Jamie. And network, this is me. Great. Kurt on LinkedIn, Gerwitz. Can I look up here further? Oh, Karen, yeah. Who has a kind? Who are the key people? If however many people are still here, sometimes we do not just sales side engagements, but we do buy side engagements too. Does that make sense? Where if you're looking to buy a business, obviously you need advice on how to go about doing that, and advice on what you're looking at. And that's why I'm saying, you're not necessarily looking for a tax preparer CPA. You're looking for somebody who's done this before. Okay, good.
Katie, thank you very much for all the information. I hope that we can continue planning some extra workshops for the community. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kate.
James, are you? Do you have any more questions? I mean,
I have a lot of questions, but I'll reach out to you directly.
Yeah, because it sounds like you have a lot of good things to discuss.
Yes.
I will definitely also get in touch with you, Kate, separately.
Okay.
I think,
as you know, I tried to, but
and you know what, I really appreciate that. And that's why when I saw that you were teaching the class again. I thought I'd connect this way, but I really, it's exactly where we are right now, and you've answered a lot of, or started my path forward. So I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay. You're signing off now. I hear that. Everybody dropping off. Should we see who's?
Thank you for this presentation.
Okay. Good. Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye, owner.
Perfect. So now it's recording here. I send them to the cloud. So as soon as I receive that information, I send you that. Put this in the cloud.
Yeah.
Tomorrow
Okay.
we have that.
Right. Isn't it? It's as you know, as goofy as
Mhm.
me, like having so many little problems here, but they just want this information, don't you think?
Yeah, it's very important. I feel like that we have many needs in the market.
And I know I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty, but that's all right.
No, I feel like we was first in one format and during 10 minutes cycle in another format, but at the end we provide that they need information and was well done. So thank you. Katie.
You're welcome. Yeah, right. It'll get smoother. I think it's not that you guys haven't asked. I have to.
No, I think that 80% that we made it more, but now we know that you like use the computer and you like your notes there. So the best is connect your computer and don't connect the sounds, continue like that. We made last time with Diego, he made some presentations too. So he used his computer and the sound was from there and no problem. So this is that we have to do this side.
Instead of here, right?
Yeah, unless
That's
unless we have participants. If we don't have participants, we don't need it. All this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And last time was perfect in the way that we have only 2 or 3 participants with one classroom missing out. In this one, we was expecting 7, but sometimes people show up in the middle of the hour. We have 2 hours. So we did okay. Now,
sure.
it was good to finish in the way that we start.
Good. And obviously, I mean that most of those were smaller. We're not so connected, right?
No, I want to check yours because yours, it never concluded what your final status in yours. But I leave, so you have to be done. That is